I spent 15 of my 33-year career as a physical therapist doing things that I learned in school and when I was taught from back specialists, trying to help my sciatica clients, but I was doing it all wrong. I might have given some temporary relief, but what happened when they went for a car ride or a walk or tried doing something they loved, their pain kept coming back over and over. So in this video, I'm going to share with you what I learned about treating sciatica over the past 33 years while helping thousands of my clients. But first, what I want to talk about is what is it that we PTs are actually taught that doesn't really work for getting sciatica clients back? And let me tell you one of the big things, and this should make sense to you when I demonstrate. We're told that when someone has sciatica and they have a tight hamstring that's compensating for that pain or is being tensed because the nerve that innervates that hamstring is being irritated. We're told when something is tight and stiff, in order to loosen it up, we need to take it and stretch it. So we're taking something that's tight, making it tighter, hoping that what we do is going to calm it down and loosen it up. Now, that really doesn't make any sense. It's like saying, hey, you know what? If you've got something tight, pull it really, really tight, and that's going to say to that muscle, all right, the muscle's going to basically say to you, all right, that's enough. Let's just relax now. But you see, it's already aggravated, it's already irritated, and that's why it's tight and compensating so it doesn't aggravate things further. Another thing we're told, if you've got soreness, tightness, spasms in a muscle, there's trigger points there that you need to roll on and stretch and get massaged out and dig on. Now, in the same respect that you're trying to take a tight muscle, make it tighter, you're digging on something that's irritated, aggravated, and already has muscle spasms in it. So why would we take it and dig on it even further to try to, well, what we're doing is we're trying to release those trigger points. But when you're already dealing with an irritated tissue, why grabbing it, rubbing it, digging on it, is that going to cause the irritation to calm down? You might get, like I did with my clients, some temporary relief, but in the long run, what you're doing is you're just irritating it further. And what you're doing is pressing on it, pressing on it. Oh, you know what? I felt a release. And the client is typically in pain when you're digging on it, or if you're digging on a spasm muscle yourself as you're digging on it, it's painful. But when you let go, it actually feels better because you're comparing the release of the pressure of what you were aggravating to how it feels without it aggravating, and it actually feels better. But in the long run, 10 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes later, it's going to come back with a vengeance. What we're also taught in school is sets of generic exercises. There's the Williams flexion exercises or the McKenzie extension exercises. One of those two movements are probably going to help you. The other one's probably going to aggravate you. And if you combine the two, you're not going to get a net benefit. Does that make sense? Also, what we're told is if you have any type of disc issue going on, you absolutely refuse to do any type of rotation. We're taught don't ever do rotation with a disc bulge or herniation. Now, my big question is every time you take a step when you're walking, guess what's happening? Your body is rotating. And if you don't have rotation, you're not going to be walking very well. And if we're neglecting improving people's rotation, no matter what their symptoms are in their low back or sciatica issues, then we are not going to help them in walking. And if you're walking without rotating, your butt muscles, your ab muscles, your hip muscles, everything is tightening down and not functioning normally, which is going to cause more of a compression on the area that's already a problem. So you've got your generic exercises, the flexions, the extensions, the no rotation. Then you have your cat camel where you're arching your back and sinking your back, or your knee to chest pulls and your bridges, and of course the core strengthening and stabilization exercises. And I always tell my clients, if you go on Google and search generic sciatica exercises, and you see all these exercises that I just mentioned to you, and you see everything that your chiropractor, doctor, physical therapist, trainer, whoever you're working with is giving you, something is not right. Why would you be getting generic sciatica exercises that are not specific for you, but just sort of help all back pain, low back pain, and sciatica clients? So that's what I was doing. As a matter of fact, I had a regime that I would put every one of my low back and sciatica clients through. I would do an assessment, and honestly, it didn't matter what the assessment came up with. My first treatment for each client with low back pain or sciatica, I would put them in a traction or a decompression unit with heat on their back. And I would put them in a position which was most comfortable for them, whether it would be laying on their back with their legs elevated or laying on their stomach. So I would get them in a comfortable position, put that decompression treatment on. So it was pulling for about 35 or 40 seconds, then relaxing for 10 to 20 seconds, then pulling again. And I did it according to their body weight. Everybody loved it. Not one person, I take that back. One person complained about the pulling on their spine in the first 15 to 16 years of my career while I was doing this. And I stopped it right away because I didn't want to cause pain. But what would happen is I would get them off of the traction or decompression, and I would do some manual therapy, try to calm down the tight muscles around the area where the main problem was. And then I would get them out in my gym and do the generic exercises. I would hand them the exercises. I would demonstrate what to do, how to do it. And I would always tell them, don't push through pain, but do as much as you can and do these 2 times a day until you come back and see me. And I would generally see sciatica or low back patients 2 to 3 times a week for 4 to 6 weeks, hoping that what I was doing would work. Now, you may say, that's very similar to what my chiropractor and my PT did. What's wrong with that? And let me tell you what's wrong with that. Number one, generic exercises are just that. They're generic exercises. And unless we specify how to do them correctly for you, they're just generic exercises. Also, I have learned in my career that there are no two people who are identical in their underlying root cause of the problem, in their symptoms. Some people have symptoms only in the back. Some people have it go to the butt. Some people have it go to the hip. Some people have it go all the way down to their toes, and then everything in between. And it might be sharp pain, dull pain, achy pain, tingling, numbness, a heaviness feeling, anything that a nerve can basically feel like. And no two people actually respond the same way to the same exercises that I have found. Everybody has their biases as to which movements, what positions, what exercises feel best for them and give them the most relief. But we generally put people through the same type of exercises. And let me give you sort of a example of how crazy this is. Let's say you're an ER doctor. You get a protocol for a fractured arm. So anybody who comes in with a broken or a fractured arm gets treated like this. Now, you need to know there's multiple bones involved in the arm, so not every break is going to be the same. You might get somebody with a compound fracture, which means it comes through the bone or it comes through the skin and it's broken in half. Some people may have other sort of what is there? Green stick fracture, a comminuted fracture, a closed fracture. Some fractures may be requiring you to reset the bone. Some it's just, all right, let's just put on a brace and hang out for a few weeks because it's not really fractured. It's sort of a hairline fracture. So you have a wide variety of fractures. And wouldn't it be ridiculous to have a protocol that everybody follows that is identical treatment for a fracture, regardless of whether it's a compound fracture, a hairline fracture, a comminuted fracture, a green stick fracture? It would be crazy. In the same way, to me now, it's ridiculous to treat every sciatica client the same way with the same exercises and the same modalities and the same manual treatments, simply because the underlying problem is probably different. The way their body's responding to the pain is probably different. We need to understand that sciatica needs to be treated differently for each person. How can we individualize sciatica treatments for people? And over the last 15 to 16 years, I've been doing just that. Even though the treatments are very similar, what I do is I teach people how to assess their own body, their own movements. I teach them how to, number one, find their imbalances. And very simply, first exercise that I give most people, like I told you before, rotation is very important in our movements in everyday life. So I always check people's rotation. Is the rotation the same both sides? Does it feel the same both sides? Does it feel restricted or limited on one side compared to the other? Is one side more, does it have more discomfort or pain one side more than the other? Because my big focus in my treatments, number one step and the first step in my programs are we need to balance out the body, because what happens is whenever anybody has pain, the body's natural response in their body is to compensate for their pain. So the area around the pain is going to tighten to protect. And that means every other area of their body is going to have to compensate for what those muscles are now not doing. And I always tell people this: think of somebody walking around on a bad sprained ankle. Why is their head, neck, and shoulders moving in such a strange way? It's because the ankle area and the lower leg are tightened to protect the ankle from further damage, which means every part of the upper leg is going to have to take up the slack. And because it's painful, you want to get off that leg. So every part of your body is compensating for where the actual problem is. And that's to, number one, help you function. But number two, also limit the pain. And I know it's tough to realize that your pain is limited because it's so painful, but our bodies are masters at compensating. And what that does, it causes things to be out of balance, right side versus left side. So you have this pulling here, which adds physical stress and tension to your body. And if you're not addressing the imbalances in the body, you're missing a big picture of healing, because when you have this pulling, that adds stress and tension to the area that's being protected. And once you start balancing out the body, the area that's tightened down in the area of the problem to protect it starts to relax. And that's when healing starts to take place. So, number one, you want to balance out your body. Number two, once your body starts to get balanced and symptoms calm down significantly, that's when you start to work on stability exercises. So instead of what I was taught, when you have a tight hamstring, take it and make it tighter, I test and say, okay, hey, which hamstring feels better? We only work the parts of the body that are pain-free, easy, and comfortable. Because what that does, it tells your central nervous system, okay, I can relax. I don't have to be so tense. I don't have to be in that fight or flight, which causes all those compensations and causes all that tension. So once we get the body balanced, then we start to work on stability exercises, stabilizing the entire body, stabilizing your core, obviously, because if we can get the core stabilized while it's balanced, we're going to hold ourselves in an optimal position to heal. And the reason we don't do core stability first is because when your body is compensating and things are out of balance, we don't want to reinforce those imbalances and hold those imbalances in a tighter position. Step number three is, after we've balanced and after you're stable and after your symptoms are significantly calmed down and your body is healing, then we smartly and wisely and methodically get you back to doing those things that you wanted to do that were painful before. And we don't do it all at once because we don't want you bombarding your system, aggravating things all over again. So we take it step by step, nice and slowly. So I hope that makes sense. I hope this is new news for you on how to, hey, avoid those generic exercises. Let's try to figure out where you're out of balance so we can put you in balance so your body can heal for the long haul and long term, not just for, hey, it feels a little bit better now, but 20 minutes later it comes back. You still have to understand why sciatica lasts so long for most people, and what are some of the things that you can do to get relief faster. For that, you can check out the next video that's on your screen that I made recently.